Welcome to Beyond Borders, the LU Off-Campus Programs podcast. My name is Lillian Sandberg, and I am your host. And today I have a very special guest with me.
Hello, I'm Maya Alberts. I'm a senior here at Lawrence. I'm on the women's soccer team. I'm an international relations major, and I had my study abroad experience just this past semester in the Lawrence terms of winter and spring.
Where did you study abroad?
I went to Auckland, New Zealand.
Oh, so cool. Was there a particular reason that you chose the New Zealand program over other options?
Yeah, so New Zealand was really on my radar because also other information, I'm a transfer student. I transferred into Lawrence last year as a junior, and study abroad was like very much on my radar. That's a big reason why I chose to come to Lawrence, was because of the study abroad program and the flexibility with it. So I chose New Zealand because an experience that I had when I was in high school. I was 17. I had the opportunity to go to Australia with my best friend, to stay with her immediate family who lives in Sydney. And we spent a month there when I was 17, and we had a ball. Like, we had the best time ever, made friends. Just going to that area of the world was incredible. And I knew I needed to get back at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So ended up being 4 years later, and I spent some time in Europe, and I just felt like I wanted a different experience than every weekend being gone and just the craziness, because I know you've studied abroad.
Yeah.
And which is incredible, but I felt like Europe was something that I could do later in life, or after college, that I could spend more time there, and it's way easier to access than going to New Zealand or Australia for extended period of time if it's not for like work, unless you're moving there, you know, like when am I going to spend 5 months there?
Yeah.
So that was a big thing for me. And I was, because it's always like, did you make the right choice? Like, you realistically, being on the women's soccer team, you don't get that many opportunities to go. It's not like I could be like, oh, now I'm going to go another term if I really wanted to. So, but I was fortunate enough to go, before I went to New Zealand, I had time to go and stay with some friends in Europe who were studying abroad.
Nice.
So I went to Barcelona and stayed for like a week and a half with some friends there. And so I got a little taste of the European study abroad experience.
Right.
And while it was incredible, had so much fun, I felt like my friends were really exhausted. And I feel like in New Zealand, I knew it was sort of going to be like that, but you weren't gone every weekend.
Right.
Unless you really wanted to. I feel like you really got to enjoy the city that you were in and the country. New Zealand's not big, the country that you were in.
Right.
I kind of focused on that more and like really immersing into the local culture than just being gone every weekend, I guess.
Yes, that is such a great point, because while I was studying in Europe, there was kind of these two groups of people, the ones that would travel the really local region of Germany that we were in. And then there were the ones that every Friday they'd be on a flight to an island in the Mediterranean or off to Norway or something like that. And I think at the end of that experience, the people who did go and were kind of jet setting all around were like, oh, I know nothing about Freiburg. I've not spent a whole weekend here almost the entire time. And so I can really appreciate the desire to just really get to know the one place well.
Exactly. And I did do some jet setting, I guess, but way less, because everything's so far from New Zealand.
Yes.
That, you have to give a decent chunk of time.
Speaking of that, I didn't even think about that, but the flight there is like 20 hours or something crazy, right?
Yeah, it was 4 hours to LA and then 13 to New Zealand.
Holy cow.
Which wasn't as bad, because when I went to Australia, I don't know why, I don't know if it's like something with the flight stream, I don't know, but that was 17, and so 13 wasn't even as bad. It's kind of crazy.
But I can't imagine.
You just gotta bunk in and try to sleep if possible.
Right. And then the time zone change is like, isn't it?
It's 17 hours ahead. So, okay, but it's almost so bad that it's good.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a whole day ahead So if today is Friday, it's Saturday, like morning, they're there.
Right.
Or like, you know, it's so bad that it's like actually works out well-ish with like trying to talk to home. Whereas Europe is like total, it's like, wow. Like
when I'm awake, you're asleep kind of thing.
Exactly. Where this is like our afternoons, they're more, you know, our nights, they're more, you know, so it works out.
Okay.
Weirdly enough.
That's nice. So were there any major things that you liked or disliked about your program and the time you spent in New Zealand?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I went in with like decently high expectations and I was kind of scared for that because I'm like, I try to be like, I'm glad that I went no matter what, like, no matter if it's horrible. I'm glad I went. It exceeded all of my expectations.
Amazing.
Like, fully exceeded them. It was exactly what I wanted. I feel like it pushed me out of my comfort zone without feeling like a culture shock that you have of being somewhere where you don't speak the language. When I was in Rome, you sweat a little bit, like having, like you're like going places, even ordering a coffee, you're nervous, right? A little bit.
Yes.
So this is like not that experience. And I feel like I really embraced like public transportation, different like cultural food things. And I don't know, I want to say I just really enjoyed every aspect. Like I look back on it and I'm like, that was like the time of my life.
Good.
Yeah.
That's so good. So did you have anything that you really did dislike though about Auckland or anything like that?
I would say I wish it was more accessible to like beach stuff. It just is kind of a hike, I guess.
Yeah.
And you have to tear a really long bus ride or you have to rent a car, which was cheap and it was affordable, but it's a whole process.
Right.
I would say just being in a city setting, it's really cool because you're on an island and you have access to beaches and stuff, but I wish there was certain like better accessible stuff like that.
Okay.
You know, you kind of need a car if you're going anywhere outside the city.
Right.
So, which like we did a lot, but it is called also like a pain.
Right. Gotcha. Is there anything that surprised you about New Zealand? I know that you said you've spent some time in Australia. Yeah. Are there any like major differences that when you got there you were like, what the heck is this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, they have nothing that can basically kill you, which was
love
awesome.
that.
No, like terrifying like snakes or spiders. I also thought like a super low shark population, which is one of my worst fears. I hate sharks, and I spent a decent amount of time in the ocean. I was not scared at all, which was great. From like being in Australia, I think that like their culture really is a pretty distinct part of their everyday life, which I felt like in Sydney was not. Like it runs deep. I'm gonna butcher it, so I apologize, but like the Maori, that's like their local culture and the indigenous people there, I thought was really incredible to learn about, which I did not know anything about going into it. And like our first weekend there, we went on like a retreat to an island off of Auckland and stayed in their like their communal like house where everyone sleeps on mats. Like it was, and you learn about it and just how they value the land and people and their just appreciation for each other. And I just thought that really surprised me in a very pleasant way.
Yeah.
It's just like a way of life, and they do bring it in all aspects, I would say, of their society. In government, and they really try to promote it in even the university system. So that surprised me in a really good way.
Nice. That's really cool. So segueing off of that a little bit, what is the city life like in Auckland?
Yeah.
Is it like a traditional US city? Or
I would say so, yes. Because I spent a lot of time in New York City my first 2 years of university. It was nice being back in an urban setting, obviously a lot bigger than Appleton.
Yeah.
I would say it's pretty close to a US city. It was very clean though. It felt very safe, lots of parks, very hilly. Like I would almost like consider it close to like a West Coast town.
Like San Francisco energy
kind
or
of.
something?
I've never been to San Fran, but I would kind of, because it's a little bit like surf, like like the northern island, because New Zealand's in 2 islands. Auckland, where Auckland is North Island, I would associate more with like surfer vibes, you know, very chill. And I would like associate that a little bit with like maybe San Diego. I don't know. It was really cool though. Very urban, lots of restaurants, shopping, but like not huge either. Like
Okay.
walking distance for sure. Like you could walk probably all over the city fairly easily, and they have great public transportation,
Mm-hmm.
trains, bus systems were great. So, yeah, I would say it's pretty traditional city, but
Okay. You've mentioned that you're on the soccer team, and how does your athletics play into making a decision like studying abroad?
so going into college, I never thought studying abroad was going to be possible. Maybe over a summer,
Mm-hmm.
if that, because I played at a different school. As I was going through school, I was like, studying abroad is something that I've always wanted to do, and it's very important to me. So it did play a big role in me transferring schools.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was looking at Lawrence, something that appealed to me was a lot of the girls in the program studied abroad. But it is something you have to think about. Like, you're missing, especially going for 2 terms, you're
Right.
missing a whole spring season
Mm-hmm.
of play and practice. There are like a ton of things to think about, but it ended up working out well. And we committed to like doing stuff, like doing certain things for soccer abroad
Mm-hmm.
to keep us somewhat in the game,
Yeah.
which is like it's a part of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was fun too, and I can talk a little bit more about that. But overall, just like yeah, studying abroad and with athletics is not easy, but there are ways to make it work if you really want it to.
Mm-hmm.
And Lawrence, just like working with our coach, made it so easy. And they really, I don't know what the word is, but they very much push it
Yeah.
and recommend and all of the above. So they're really great with that, and that helped.
Nice. I'm so glad to hear that. How did you kind of accommodate, getting ready to go back into the athletic season this summer slash fall after studying abroad?
While we were abroad, because I went with 3 other girls from the soccer team,
Oh,
which was
nice.
fantastic, which I did not expect like coming into Lawrence at all. Just so happened, which was awesome. We joined a local team there for the University of Auckland,
Uh-huh.
and we tried to go as much as we could. It was like 2 days a week, and we played in like a few games,
Mm-hmm.
which was very fun. We played futsal for our campus. We got to represent University of Auckland, which was great. So we tried to stay in that, but college like athletics there is not what it is here. Like it is crazy how competitive things are
Uh-huh.
here compared to they're like so relaxed, so chill, and we're like, are we like gonna get going? Like it was funny. Like it's very much not taken as seriously, I guess.
Okay.
Like they can't fathom like the concept of it's like a full-time job here,
Right. Yeah.
and they just cannot wrap their minds around that,
Huh.
which is crazy. Soccer in general there, football is like not big at all.
Huh.
Rugby is
Rugby.
their thing.
Okay.
It goes crazy. It
Uh-huh.
was a wild experience that in itself. But when I actually played a lot of tennis there,
Okay.
surprisingly, which was a nice change up.
Mm-hmm.
But so coming back, I was definitely out of shape and was not as ready as I usually am to come into season.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got back and like a little bit before I left, I was grinding. Just you just gotta like buckle down and try to get some running and fitness in
Right.
before season because I fully was like it was not a vacation because I was doing school, but I was very much separating myself from the student athlete to really being a student
Right.
and a study abroad student.
Yeah.
So
Oh, well, that's interesting to hear that the university athletics is a little bit different over there.
completely different. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I wonder how that is for like some other areas too, because
Right?
I know in Germany there was like an entire campus dedicated to the student athletes in Freiburg.
Whoa.
Yeah, where they had all of the gyms, everything there, and everybody who was a student athlete had to be studying like kinesiology and like
Wow. That's
yeah, like
crazy.
fitness and stuff. And so they were totally separate from the rest of us. Some study abroad programs, you like do all your classes at a study abroad center that's separate from the university, but it sounds like you were enrolled as an actual student in the University of Auckland. What was that like?
So that was also incredible because I would say University of Auckland is like an equivalent to like UW-Madison. Like
Okay.
it's massive.
Mm-hmm.
It's their local city university. Um, lecture halls of 300 to 800 students.
Holy
So
cow.
completely different than Lawrence, which was really cool to experience. Um, so that was definitely different, but it was nice because sometimes I think because I had some smaller classes because of my major,
Mm-hmm.
but like I was probably the only American in the class, and especially being in a international relations and political like focused major, they definitely wanted to know my opinions, and we talked a lot about Western politics,
Right.
and so that was very interesting in itself. But I did make like I was in projects with locals, student like from Auckland.
Mm-hmm.
I even like in dorm like the where we lived, it was similar
Right.
to Fox Commons,
Okay.
where it's like your own apartment kind
Mm-hmm.
of, but in a dorm. I don't know, but and you live with local students.
Yeah.
They mix you in,
I love
which
that.
is great.
Mm-hmm.
So very much like talking to my friends who went abroad to Europe, they're in fully like study abroad housing
Right.
and universities of study abroad students.
Mm-hmm.
This was not like that at all. So, and you kind of only make friends like with study abroad students, which we were very close with our group who went,
Right.
like, because you travel together, you do
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but we definitely made friends with locals. So,
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day and I was like, we're one of the only European study abroad programs that houses you with the Europeans.
mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about it and I was like, I think I have more German friends than
Yeah,
American friends from
which is
study
cool to
abroad.
say.
Right. I don't think that's something that most students are like, I was just chilling with the locals for like the
Right.
whole time. Tell me a little bit about your courses that you were taking.
Yeah. So I was taking some really random classes because I needed to take classes like to fulfill like requirements because I
Right.
am a transfer student. And so I took like like Spanish 1,
Mm-hmm.
and I took a workshop class,
Okay.
like metalwork, woodwork, which ended up
That's
being
kind of sick.
awesome. It was like once a week for 3 hours, like on Wednesday, which was so cool. And all the people in my class were really cool. And then I took international organizations,
Okay.
which, like NATO,
Mm-hmm.
that whole vibe, like learning all about that. That was cool. And then I took gender and politics,
Okay.
which I also really enjoyed. And they're kind of touched on that. My two politics classes touched on like similar aspects. So that was cool.
Nice. That is really neat. So, what is one thing that you wish you would have known before you had left for study abroad?
Honestly, I think I was very well prepared.
Good.
I think one thing I will like reiterate, and that I was telling myself that I think I fulfilled, but it's not to have regret about taking a day off
Mm-hmm.
or trying to see as much as you can
Mm-hmm.
and exhausting yourself to the point where you're not able to enjoy it.
Right.
I feel like I really stayed true to that, even if I didn't necessarily see everything that I wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
What I did see was really cool,
Right.
and that, like, I feel like was a big thing that I wanted before I went, and that I enjoyed. I would say I don't know about necessarily because I don't have many regrets for my trip. I feel like I really enjoyed my time and I took advantage of it.
I love that.
I would say maybe just not being afraid to put myself out there more. I
Mm-hmm.
wish I was more involved in the clubs, like the club scene,
Mm-hmm.
because I joined like the surfing club,
Yeah.
and I feel like one of my friends who I went with, Kenzie, she did a good job of like she was like an athletes in action
Mm-hmm.
and did a few other things that I feel like she made really great connections in. And I wish I put myself out there more and joined other clubs
Yeah.
because I had the time.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Do you have a crazy study abroad story by any chance?
So I have like a few small ones. I
Uh-huh.
won't say like necessarily crazy, but like funny, I
Uh-huh.
guess. One is one of our like first like few weeks there. My whole study abroad group went on a surf trip to Murray Y, like a local like beach. We like bus there. It was like a whole thing.
Uh-huh.
And it was like a little day trip and it was beautiful. Like their beaches are insane, like credible black sand,
Mm-hmm.
gorgeous, like crazy waves. And the first thing we do, we had some time for a lesson, so we're just hanging out by the beach. And this guy named Morgan, he immediately like takes his shirt off, rolls up his pants, and goes like just goes for it and goes in the water and just goes as far as he can out. And we're all like, oh, like that's funny, haha, taking videos. All of a sudden, all like the patrol, like the lifeguards are coming over. They're like, what are you doing? Like freaking out. And we're like, what is going on? Like, well, they had to go out and get him, which was insane because obviously we had no idea, but the rip currents there are unreal, like crazy,
Oh.
especially if you're not on a surfboard because you have nothing to,
To-
you could be out there for 40 minutes trying to swim, like get out of a riptide. So that was crazy. Immediately, just like Americans just like not realizing like
Oh
how serious
no.
some of that stuff is.
Yeah.
So that was funny. Another one was just like pretty incredible was we did our my study abroad group did they organized, which was great, a trip to Rarotonga in the Cook
Okay.
Islands,
Mm-hmm.
and we did a cross island hike, like,
Oh.
and because it's not a huge island, like you could bike around it in like 25 minutes, like something quick. It was really crazy small,
Mm-hmm.
and they have like huge mountains in the middle of it
Okay.
and like jungle, and we did this like guided hike through it, and like we're college athletes. It was so hard. It was beautiful, so rewarding. We are climbing up the side of this mountain. We're climbing on tree roots like it's a ladder, like
Uh-huh.
vertical. And I'm like, how are we allowed to do this? Like, this is so dangerous. Like, I'm fearing for my life. Like, we're like, this drop down is right here. That was really like a pinch me moment.
Yeah.
I'm like, where am I right now? Like, just a month ago, like 2 months ago, I was like
In
in
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, like winter. And now I'm like traipsing through the jungle. That was really crazy. So, yeah, I would say those are some like crazy like pinch me moments. Saw great sunsets. I would say just we drove from we did a trip to Wellington
Okay.
and we flew into Wellington and then we drove 8 hours through the whole North Island. I did most of the driving on the left side of the road, which was
Oh.
crazy. And I definitely had some close
Oh
calls or
no.
like turn in the right lane. I'm like,
You're like,
nope, can't do that,
oh,
which was really funny. And you're just driving and you're passing volcanoes and
that's so
huge
cool.
lakes and the just like the this isn't really answering the question, but
It's
this
fine.
just like the fauna and like the like geography of New Zealand in general is just like nothing I've ever seen before.
Well, I know that a lot of like fantasy film movies
Mm-hmm.
are filmed in New Zealand because it
Yep.
is kind of this otherworldly terrain.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm glad to hear that it is actually
Yes.
like that.
And unfortunately, I did not visit Hobbiton if
Okay.
you're a Lord of the Rings fan, but the three girls who I went with, they did a half marathon in Hobbiton and
Oh.
it looked incredible. And they dressed up, you dress up, everyone was dressed up in like the Hobbit characters and they like ran through Hobbiton, which was insane. So they have like posted a little video, which is crazy.
This is a little side note,
Mm.
but in the last episode of this podcast, we also talked about Lord of the Rings. And
Really?
so this is
No
the second
way.
time that we're having
That's
a Lord of the
crazy.
Rings discussion
Well, there you
during Study
go.
Abroad podcast.
Yeah, who knew? Who knew?
Who knew?
It's
It's
so
just
funny.
part of the Study
Yeah.
Abroad experience, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, one last crazy thing.
Okay.
I did do a crazy bungee, like, it wasn't bungee jump, but it was like a huge canyon swing where you like free fall drop with a friend. It was me and a friend, and you free fall drop in this huge swing through this crazy canyon in
Oh my
Queenstown.
gosh.
That was unbelievable. So
That
yeah,
sounds
that was
crazy.
also pretty wild. My mom was not happy,
Yeah,
but I had to tell her after.
exactly. Just she didn't what she doesn't
Exactly.
know isn't gonna hurt her.
Exactly. Exactly.
What do you think was the most difficult part or challenging part of studying abroad for you?
I would say the most difficult part was time management and the fact of trying to coordinate trips with
Uh-huh.
school, working ahead with friends. And like I said, I feel like I try to give myself a lot of grace with not seeing everything.
Right.
But at the same time, I really wanted to see as much as I could.
Right.
So finding time and planning things was like difficult, I would say.
Mhm.
Just coordinating all the different pieces
Mhm.
of it. And obviously I miss home too.
Absolutely.
And but I've done a decent amount of traveling and been away. Been away at school for however long that
Right.
it wasn't too bad. It didn't feel as far as I was, you
Yeah.
know.
I
Social media too. So.
yeah. I actually think that people assume that it's going to feel really far, but
Mm.
honestly with like modern technology, I mean, yeah, I don't normally see my parents for
Right?
4 months anyway.
Yeah.
I just FaceTime them and you can
Exactly.
still just FaceTime them. Like
Yeah.
it's whenever you like look on your Google Maps or like if you have Find My Friends on
Yep.
iPhone, I like that's when I got freaked
Yeah.
out because I would see myself over
Right.
and then there's like an ocean and then there's
Yeah.
everyone else I know.
Yeah.
Um,
You almost need to like compartmentalize that aspect I because it's like it's a weird feeling being like when you are homesick, the difference between being like in a same country. There's like it's a weird feeling. I don't know how to explain it. Where it's just the fact that like if you needed to, you couldn't get home easily.
right. Yeah. That is something that was super anxiety inducing for me too. Is like,
Mm,
most of the time things are fine, but what happens if they're not? And
right?
then what the heck do you do? Because then you have to decide, is it a big enough deal that I
Need
leave
to
my
go.
study abroad program
Yeah.
to go home? Yeah.
One of the people in my study abroad group, her grandma died
Yeah.
during, and like that's hard, and she didn't go home.
Right.
But like,
Yeah.
like do you even like family members? Do they tell you
Exactly.
things?
Yeah,
You know?
I my grandpa had some health things going on while I was gone and I didn't find out until I
Yeah.
got home that
Right.
any of it was happening because they were like there's nothing that you can do
Yeah.
while you're gone.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so that's also like a really weird like to know that there are things going on at home that people aren't telling you because you can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
I had to like wrap my mind around that concept and it took me like a month to stop being a little bit upset
I
that that
know,
happened.
because yeah, just like that's life, I guess. But you
Yeah,
can't do anything. But no,
exactly.
I totally agree, though.
So, okay. Last but not least,
Mm.
why do you think somebody should study abroad?
I can't. First of all, can't speak more highly of studying abroad. Life changing experience. Just the connections you make,
Mm-hmm.
the like just the experiences you have. I think it's just so important to be uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
and to have to adapt to different situations and to a new culture to figure it out. And I think it's just like the experience is so like so valuable
Mm-hmm.
towards life and our future and things that we're going to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just also a blast.
It
Like
is.
it was a like I like that's a trip of a lifetime. Like when am I ever gonna like when are we gonna be able to do this when we have jobs and
Exactly.
like very rarely are we gonna get this opportunity. And I mean it was like I was on vacation for 5 months, like,
Right.
like
Yeah.
it's just crazy. And
Yeah.
I'm very thankful.
Exactly. There's no other opportunity where you'll be able to just take 6 months of your life
No,
and move to a different country.
I know.
And
And I just don't know why people wouldn't do it, honestly.
I
Everyone has
I'm
different
there
preference,
too.
but different preferences. I would study abroad every single year if I could.
Yeah, for sure. I it's a really unique situation
Yeah,
and it's
we have flexibility
yeah,
and just like incredible. So go study abroad.
do it.
Yeah.
Okay, last thing, do you have anything that you do on campus that you kind of want to shout out? Like anything going on that you want to, yeah.
Yes, well, obviously, women's soccer. Please
Woo!
come support. It means a lot to us. We're looking good this year,
Mhm.
and it really helps having the everyone's support. And we love having everyone from campus, all types of, like we're in class together, and it's just
Yeah.
like having like normal students and people from the con. Like we love like talking about it, and we love to support other aspects of the school. So yes, so come support us.